everyone. Welcome to my sewing room again. And as I always do, thank you for coming, for being my guest, because I got to clean my sewing room again this morning, get it all cleaned up. This is probably the only time that I ever really get a chance to clean my sewing room. I got company coming. I even swept the floor. Not that you could see it, but I swept it, and then I went out into the hallway, and then I noticed that needed sweeping, and then I went to the kitchen, and that needed sweeping too. So my floors are swept. Anyway, so welcome. I hope all is enjoying this heat, because I can tell you I am not. So yeah, it's like 90 something here in Ohio. I live close to the lake, so not only do I have the heat, but I also have the humidity to go with it. So yay me. So today we are talking about felting in the hoop. I know we've talked about this subject before, but I have, I may have a new take on it than what you've seen before. This is a really awesome and easy technique. I think of the felting technique as like your Instapot of the sewing room, because you don't need any needles. You need the felting needle. You don't need thread. You don't need bobbin thread. And you could just put your embroidery design on and you can walk away. And that's pretty much what I was doing today. I wanted to stitch out a few more samples for close-ups today. So I had the machine running, doing the felting while I was sweeping my said floors. So I was, the ultimate multitasking. So briefly, the felting has been around for, I want to say, over 15 years. So it's not a new technique. It has been around for a long time. It's just, I have a feeling that if you're not into fiber arts, that you overlook it. But you'll see later on, I have quite a few examples I want to show you today. You'll see that there are so many creative things that you can do with the felting, than just felting something. You can really create some cool effects and stuff like that, and that I will show you later. But I'm quickly going to go over basically what you need, and I should have had this a little bit closer to me. This is the cloth felting kit. When you first start doing the felting, if you don't have the kit, you will need the kit, because there's certain things in that kit that you will need for setting up the machine. And then you also have a pack of needles in it. There's 5 needles, I believe, and they do last for a pretty decent amount of time. I will talk about that in a little bit. Once you have the starter kit, as you need needles, you don't need to buy the whole new starter kit. You can just purchase just a pack of 5 needles. And again, those will keep you going for a while. Let me switch machines. Cameras here. So right here, you will see that I already have the needle guard on. So that just screws on right here where your shank would be. So your ankle, your shank, you would take that off and put that on. I already have the needle in there already, and this needle is just like your sewing machine needles. It has a flat back, so there's only one way that you can put it in. This goes in the bobbin area. This is because we're not using any bobbin thread with this. We're felting, we're not stitching anything. So during the felting process, this does need to go into the bobbin area. I like to say we're cheating it. We're telling the machine that there's a bobbin there, but there really isn't. And then this is a needle plate cover. And this just pops onto the machine like that. It just protects it. There's only one way you can put it on. So that is your setup. It is as easy as that. There's no thread or anything. These needles can also be used on other branded machines, as long as that said machine is not dependent on having thread going through the take-up lever or censoring it. So if you have another branded machine, you can still use these needles and these embroidery designs, but there is that stipulation. So you would need to check on your other branded machine to see if it's possible. So let's get started. There are a few different ways that you can do the felting, and it's also different. So there's different fibers. I do want to say that the first thing you need to think about is natural fibers are going to felt so much nicer than a man-made fiber. So if you want to stick to the wools, the cottons, and those things, or I even thought about it last night. I was like, I should try this. You know how silk dupioni, it frays super easily. I had some scraps of silk dupioni, and not worth doing something with, but because it's silk, I won't get rid of it. So I thought, ooh, what if I pulled all those off and then used those fibers in conjunction with something else? I haven't tried it, but hey, maybe we should. Not today because I didn't pull the fibers out. But anyway, I think that would be a great idea to use up those small pieces of silk that I just refuse to throw away. Okay, so the first technique is it's one of my favorites, I'm not gonna lie. So felting on denim. So if you have some good denims, and I have some right here, these are 100%. They're, let's see, let me switch to this camera and see if we could get better close up. If you can see, they're two different shades, but if you look on the back of them, you can see that they have, a very light color on the back. And what will happen is with the felting, the white fibers will come through to the dark side. So when you're felting on the denim, for that effect to happen, you actually need to hoop upside down. So this is I'm using a magnetic hoop. This comes in 4 different sizes, 100 by 100, 200 by 200, 240 by 150, and I always forget the third one. So maybe Amy, shout out to Amy. Oh, it's 180 by 130. Thank you, Amy. 4 different sizes, and these are great hoops. Now I'm gonna confess, I am not a floater. If you do embroidery, you know what I mean. I am a hooper. But there are times that you do need to float things, and I say this all the time. Everybody knows that I am a hooper. For this technique, I would prefer to, magnetic hoops are a floater's dream, right? I prefer to float it, magnetic hoop this, because no stabilizer is involved in this either. For this technique, you don't want the stabilizer. The stabilizer is going to hinder the effect opposed to helping it. So when I put this on the hoop, I try to pull the denim as taut as I can. I am using 100% cotton denim, so this one doesn't have any lycra or spandex in it. You will get a better result if you can find 100% cotton and no lycra or spandex in that, because the lycra and spandex fiber is not going to pull to the other side like a cotton will. So if it does have lycra or spandex in it, you may need to run the design twice. And what I mean by that is you would stitch it out one time, take a look at it, and if enough fibers did not come through, then don't unhoop it, don't do anything, just automatically press start again and run it for a second time. This one, and let me give you this close up. This particular design, that was only one pass. That was a pass this morning. I'm going to show you the back. The back is going to be hard to see. You can see it there. It's nice and faint, but that's what you'll see on the reverse side. And how this works is, you can see, I'm going to go to this machine. So I would connect my hoop on correctly, but my fabric is upside down. But as I was hooping this, I'm going to say hooping it, I pulled this just a little bit taut as I was placing those magnets down, so I didn't have too much give in it. There will be give in this. As you start stitching, there will be give. This particular technique, felting, it is it is not a quick stitch out. I'm not going to lie to you. They can be very time consuming, but on the plus side of that is there's no thread involved whatsoever. So you are able to walk away from the machine and not worry about it. The app's not going to tell you anything. The only time the app is going to tell you, which I had it happen to me today, was if I needed to change the needle. So while I'm talking about that needle, I can't tell you how long that needle would last, but the machine told me. I did some very large stitch outs last week, and they took about maybe 5 hours to stitch out. Now, don't gasp. When I show it to you, you're going to be like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And it was worth the time. And I'll show it to you in a little bit. But this is what I mean by it's not super fast, but the results are amazing. To me, it was well worth it because you know what? I went out to dinner while my machine was running. So I got dinner and the machine was running, and I didn't have any fear because there was no stabilizer to get caught up, no threads to break or anything like that. So literally when I got home, it was pretty much finished. So I was happy for that. So that needle did become dull, and the machine stopped today, and it said you need to change your needle. So, and that's what I did. I did 2 of the 6-hour embroideries, and then I also did a few other embroideries that took quite some time to do. So that needle lasted a good amount of time. Okay, so that is on denim, and let me show you a sample for the denim. I don't know if you've ever had a time when you had a vision in your head of a project, and I did, and it was of this bag, and it came out exactly as I hoped it would. I got stuffing in there so you can see it. It came out exactly how I wanted it. So this is one of the designs from mySewnet, and it is an endless. So I think I did use the 130 by 180 magnetic hoop to do this because it was endless. So I did need to do some lining up on it. But I needed an X amount of width to go around the front. And then I had to do it again and did the back as well. Now, you do not have to use the magnetic hoops. You can use any of the hoops that you have. But with the denim, just know you're not hooping any stabilizer. So you're only hooping the denim, and make sure that it is upside down to get that effect. Okay. Any questions on denim? I have some other samples for you that I'm going to show, but I'm not going to do that right this moment. All righty. So the next way that you can do the felting is you can use what's called roving. And this is roving. So it's yarn before it becomes yarn. And this one is 100%. This is 100% wool. And you can find this at yarn shops. You can find it in some of the craft stores, but you may find smaller quantities of it, or you actually at the yarn shops, you could find some really nice hand-dyed ones, which could really give a cool effect. But it comes in so many different colors. I've got like a package here. I bought this I don't even know where this package came from. I probably had it for a while, but you know, it comes in multiple colors. This one I have, it's like candy. This one was a whole bunch of sample ones of colors that I got as a pack. I mean, that's small amounts. When I ordered it, I really thought it was going to be, you know, bigger than what they are, but that's okay. There's a lot of nice smaller designs that you can use this with. The roving does go a long way. What I also have on hand, which I bought a while ago, was I purchased, if you're familiar with it, Angelina fiber. Let me pull out this one because you can see this. Let me switch this camera for a close-up. This is Angelina fiber. Do you see that? It has, it looks like my Brillo pad. It has this glisten to it, this metallic look to it. So if you use a combination of the roving and the Angelina fiber, you will get a really cool effect on that as well. You can also use yarn. Don't think that you can't use that. You can use yarn. Again, the 100% wool is going to work out much better than an acrylic will. Am I saying you can't use the acrylic? I'm going to say you're going to have to do multiple passings. I did one where I used, and this is another option that you can use for fiber. These are 100% wool felt sheets already. And I did try something with the inexpensive felt squares that you can find at the big box stores. And, you know, most of those are not wool at all. I did use those for something. I didn't get the best results. I did have to run it like 3 times. And I still didn't. I would say experiment with the different fibers. We do have small designs in the mySewnet library that you can send over to your machine. And, you know, they're about that big, smaller than, you know, and that'll give you an idea if that fiber is going to work for you. But you can also use yarn. And if you use yarn, it will give you a different kind of effect, especially on the back of the felting. And I'll show you that. I have one is the 120 hoop for this. Roving in between 2 layers of water-soluble stabilizer. So I only hooped water-soluble stabilizer, and I layered my roving on top of it. And I already did 1 stitch out, and that's what you're seeing here. And I'm going to pull this away. So you can see that it's not, let me switch to this one. That lighted that better. Is all the white being caught? Ooh. So you can see that it's not as filled in as I would like it to be. And folks, sorry about that. I got an hourglass over on my side. So it's not as filled as I want it to be. And that hourglassing, sorry. So what I'm going to do is I want these little flowers for something. So I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to run the machine right now because, you know, the only thing the needle's going to do is go up and down. Seriously, it's not going to do anything else. But what I'm doing is I am fluffing out the roving here. And then I will just lay it down. And you can do multiple layers. So this is just the second layer. And then I'll take another piece of water-soluble stabilizer. So we made our little sandwich. And I already have it up on my screen. So let me show you this. So this is the 120 by 120 hoop. And do you see what I mean by the size of some of these designs so that you could just do one as a sample? It works out great to have them that small. But I wanted to fill the hoop up, and that's what I did. So I went into, you know, embroidery edit, and I got as many as I possibly can in the hoop. You will also notice this will eventually also have some embroidery on it as well. And because I have 8 of them in there, I did not want the machine to stop. So I did one color, you know, a color sort, because I did want it to stop when it came. Woo, see, that's because there's 8 of them. So you can see that's 1 of 7. That is how many times it will go through that one embroidery, so you can check it each time. And then these are these last bottom ones, these are for the embroidery itself to add the detail. So I will run this again. I'm not going to run it right now, but you get the idea. And then after it does that second pass, before I do the embroidery, I will assess this, and some of the roving that is left that wasn't felted down, I can pull that up and then make another layer if I wanted to. So if I wanted to make a third layer, I'm thinking for this design, for the project that I want to do with it, I think I am going to do 3 layers of the roving because I want these little flowers to be on the thicker side, because I'm stealing a thought from Mickey. If you guys know Mickey, Rainbow Hair, she made a few of those and then she sewed them together with the button stitch and she made a coaster out of it. And I thought, oh my God, that's genius. How awesome. So that's what I'm planning on doing with these flowers, is I'm taking Mickey's idea. Okay. Any questions on that? Nothing? We've got nothing yet. I hope that's because you're not bored. It's because I'm explaining this well enough. Alrighty. So I'm going to take that off the machine. Then there is another way that you can do felting. So not only do you have loose fibers, but you can also use the felting squares. And it depends on what you're looking. It gives you a slightly different look. So on this little girl's jacket here, this one is one of the designs from mySewnet. My intention was to do this without any kind of additional fiber, but this jacket had quite a bit of lycra in it. And if you look at it, it's there. To me, there wasn't enough contrast between the outside and the inside. So I wasn't getting the look that I wanted. So that's when I ended up putting a piece of wool felt behind it. This particular wool felt, this one is a blend. So it was wool and cotton, and it worked out just fine. I didn't have to do 2 passes. And then I also added, if you can get close to it, of course, I added some rhinestones just to give it a little more shimmer. But the type of fabric that I had is what told me that it's not going to work out as well as I wanted to because of the contrast in the lycra with just the denim. It is going to work out better using the felt squares. And that was actually felt by the yard that I picked up. Alrighty. Any questions about any of that? So 3 different distinct ways that you could do it. You could do it straight denim. I wonder, I think you could do it with a chino. If you had a colored chino, and if the one side has a contrast to it, you could do that as well. You just want to make sure that there's a good enough contrast from the wrong side and the right side. Then you also have the fibers that you can do. And you also, fibers meaning the roving and the yarn. And then you also have the felt squares. So you have all of these different options. And when you start stitching them out, you'll start seeing different effects, different looks. So with that, before we do that. So I have what's called, so there was a question. I am using embroidery designs that are made for felting. So if you head over to mySewnet Studio and you do a search for felting, you will find designs that are made specifically for felting. Another question, can you lay a second piece of fabric down? If you wanted, you could do as multiple layers. So if you wanted to lay, let's say, roving first. Oh, I got a good example. Say you want to do roving first, and then you want another color mixed in with that. You can maybe do 1 layer of roving, of thin roving, and then a layer of the the felt squares, you could do that combination. This sample right here, and I'm going to take it over to this camera for a close-up. So this one right here, again, it's a design from mySewnet library. And let's look at the back. So what we did here was we just randomly laid some yarn, and it's just yarn, nothing fancy. And you can see here, this is where the felting was on just the denim. And then this is where it picked up the yarn. So you got a really cool effect with that one. So you got multi-layers. That's pretty, to me, that's pretty cool. What did I say Mickey did with the flowers and the buttons? Okay, so the flowers. I have some of those flowers already stitched out. Yes, here they are. Okay, so I'm also a knitter, and I made these gloves, these mitts, and I decorated them with freestanding felting. So that's what I'm working on with the multiple flowers right now, is I'm working on a freestanding felting. And that's what these are. So what Mickey did was she took a few of these. I don't remember the number. I'm going to have to, and she put them, for example's sake, she put them next to each other. And then she used the buttonhole stitch on her machine to stitch them together. Like, I'll hold this one up. So let's say these two are touching. She used a buttonhole stitch to stitch them together, just, you know, as a connecting kind of way of stitching them together. And her end use was using it as a coaster. I just lost my bracelet. Thank goodness I'm at home. Okay, so freestanding, pretty cool. Let me show you some of these other ones that are freestanding since we're talking about it. So these are just some decorations, and these were a bunch of different elements that were stitched together. This would look great if you added more and you put it on one of those hanging wreaths. If it was smaller, you could make it into, yeah, that's kind of big, but you can make it into a corsage. There's lots of things that you could do with this. It's a textural embellishment, if you will. So it can be used for multiple things. But let me take you over and show you the close-up of this, because this is technically the right side of it. Okay? And if we flip it over, you can see the fibers that were used. And it incorporated just a lot of yarn. So you're getting a totally different texture. And for the embroidery, we put the same thread in the bobbin as we did in the needle. So then you can use either side of this depending on what look you're going for. If this was done with roving, this is how roving would look on both sides. See? So it's smoother. It just all depends on what your end use is. So that's another way that you can do it. So you got the freestanding, and you're seeing the, well, let me show you this one too, because this one's cool too. So again, on the front, they're all melded together. They look like a watercolor, if you will. And then on the back, you can distinctly see the fibers that we used yarn on this one as well. So either side is correct. It just depends on what look are you going for. Make sense? Okay. Do you have to use the mySewnet software for this? Well, there's already designs made that are pre-made in the mySewnet. So you do need to have designs that are meant for felting. You can try using designs that are have a very heavy fill pattern to it. But I can't guarantee you that's going to work, because felting is a different technique. It's done in a different way. If you notice, the designs are more simplistic than something with a fill. You can digitize your own designs. And Janie Lance, she wrote an article about digitizing embroidery designs in the software. And I believe we'll have Amy pop that link in there that goes to that. So with that being said, let me show you what I did. I was telling you how I did an embroidery design that, you know, took about 6 hours to stitch out. I did 2 of them. And let me explain them to you. So this one here, this is a fairly large design. This fit inside my 260 by 260 hoop. So it's fairly large. And the fabric that it is done on, this is a wool fabric. And then on the reverse side, this again is a piece of wool. And if you get close to it, I'm going to take you to this camera for a close-up. If you look at this, the wool pattern itself has a herringbone pattern to it. And if you look at this side, you can see that the herringbone pattern it somewhat came through. It's a little muddled, but you can see it. So it gave me that variegated look within the felting, which I thought was super cool. And this is so very defined. But I made another one because I wasn't sure. I'm purposely making these pillows to go in my living room, my formal living room, which is at my office. It's a long story. But anyway, I have a church pew. I'm covering the church pew and I wanted some throw pillows, and that's what I'm making these for. So I'm on the fence about this one. So I made another one. I thought, let's give this a try. So this one is still in the hoop, and you can see that I hooped it backwards so that the front of the fabric or the back of the fabric is on the right side of the hoop and vice versa. So this one was done with, again, a wool felt piece. No, that's the wool felt piece. And before I laid that down, I laid the Angelina fibers. So close up camera. So I don't know, can you see the sparkling of the Angelina fibers? So I did 2 layers of that, and I just randomly laid the Angelina fibers, and where they happened, it happened. So 2 totally different looks, same technique. Again, I was able to put the machine on and go do other stuff. For this one, this was my dinner one. This is the one that was running when I went out to dinner. So I'm going to put a question out there. Since I am on the fence, which one do you guys like better? Just put it in the chat. Let me know. Okay, I have some questions here. Let's see. Can you digitize something for felting? Yes. I'm sorry, I just saw that question, but yes, you can. And Amy is going to pop the link into Janie Lance's article. It gives you some really good advice on digitizing your own designs. You do want to keep them on the simpler side, like you saw my crown. That was just I don't want to say it's a piece of clip art because I had my child draw that out for me. So they did it in a I don't know whatever digital art program they use, but they created it, and it was just a black. It was where you see the actual design on the PNG file, the graphic file. It was just black. So all I had to do was quickly add in some very heavy fills in the software, and it. I did 2 different fills. I did a very heavy fill, and then I did a crosshatch fill on top of that. So not only do I have layered of fabrics, but I also have layered of fills. And that is why it took so long. You have to understand these needles, they're barbed, and they're meant to go at a slower speed because they are covering a good amount of area, and it has to penetrate right next to each other. It's not like, a satin stitch, how it just goes left and right. This does take some time because it's filling a good amount of space, and the needle is penetrating right next to where it lifted up, went down, moved over just a little bit. And you see what I can't explain that, but I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. And that's why it takes so long to do that. Now, I thought I could be a little more creative, and I thought maybe we can just lay the felt onto some fabric and I can drop my feed dogs and do this with free motion. Look at me. It does not work. Don't do it. You're going to bend those needles, because when you're doing free motion, your action is moving a lot faster. You cannot move just that little bit. You will be at the machine forever in 2 days. If you try and do free motion with these needles. Not only that, but you are going to bend those needles. These may not be super expensive needles, but it's not something I want to go out and buy 100 needles just to do one project free motion. So it is meant for the embroidery side, if that helps you. Are there any felting designs in the machine to try? Usually I should have checked that. I'm so sorry. But usually there is at least one design in your machine that involves our techniques, because, felting is not the only technique we have. We have cut work, we have fringe, we have, oh goodness, all those other techniques that we have. Usually your machine has at least one design so that you can try that technique without going to mySewnet or purchasing additional embroidery designs. So if you have your sample book, the booklet that came with your machine, if you look inside that book and there's symbols on each embroidery design, so it will let you know if that particular design is felting. I believe on the FOF icon, and I can explore in a minute or two. I believe it's a larger design. Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if this is the design that's free. On the back of the box, it shows that design. I don't know if that one's the free one or not. I will have to look. It might be on mySewnet, but I am sure that there's at least one design in the machine that you can try. Alrighty. Do you just cut away the excess fibers? Yes. When I'm doing the freestanding for these, yes, I will pull as much of it away as I can. I will pull it away before I cut it away, because I can put that in a little plastic baggie and I can use that fiber again, whatever I pulled away. And then, yes, if you feel that you need to get closer to it, go ahead and use some embroidery scissors, the double curved ones, and you can get closer to that. It works out great. But yes, I will try and save as much as I can. Like I said, for this second one that I'm going to do, before I do a third pass, I'm going to pull up all of the extra roving from the first two hoopings and relay that on top, and then fill it in with additional roving. And then when that one's done, whatever roving is left from that I pulled away, I'll put it aside and use it for another project. So I will keep using it. You can also meld your roving together. So as you pull it apart, you can mix it in with another roving, which is really cool too. So after I have all of those little scraps, I might make one thing out of it all. Alrighty, do you just cut away? Okay, got that one. The votes are coming in for the white sparkly one. Yay! That's the one I prefer, only because it was a lot more subtle, and of course it has the sparkle. And then I was thinking about adding some pearls to it too, to give it a little bit of something. Okay. For felting on denim, can you use simple line designs? Yes, you can use simple line designs. So let me show you this one. So this particular design, you can't see it. Let me go to this one. So can you see that design? So we did have to open up this is on a pair of pants, and we did have to open up the side seam so that we can hoop this. But do you see, these are pretty simple lines. So yes, you absolutely can do something on the simpler side. The other thing that I have, it's sample time. So the freestanding one, you can see on my little girl here, you don't see it. Here I used a freestanding felt. I sewed it on top of a snap. So on this, I used it as, to embellish it. And it's for the closure, so it's right on the snap. The other one that we were talking about, simple lines. So this one right here, this is a bag. See, it's a bag made out of denim jeans. And let's see if we can get that. Do you see that? That was created again in the software. So we did it it was done as a fill. So we just took a rectangle into the digitizing software, and we chose where you had the options for fill. We did, we chose the grid, instead of a fill, we chose this design. I can't think of it right now. I'm so sorry. Maybe I should do a Facebook Live on digitizing for felt. So that's how we created that design. Now I'm going to pull this out because it's fun to show. We left the bottom open so that we can show this. So the felting was done with just a piece of wool felt. And we left that felt in there. And the reason why the felt was left in there was because we're also using it as stability. So the wool felt sheet did a twofold for this bag. It gave it a little bit more stability. And then on the other side of this bag, I didn't know I was going to get a workout today. All right. On the other side of this bag, we have, I believe it's the same design that's on the jeans, or it's very close, or it's in the same family. And this one, we did use a little bit of yarn, and then we put, I keep saying we because crosshatch. Thank you, Amy. We digitized this with the crosshatch fill in the digitizing software of mySewnet. Thank you. So you can see here, not only do we have the felt square, but we also added some yarn to give it that color so that we have a variety of color. We could have put in yarn, we could have put in roving, we could have put Angelina fiber on the crosshatch as well, and just like where it happens, right? So that was the little pocket. So we used the back pocket of the pants. So there you go. So there's another great example of what you can do with it. Speaking of lines, and I'm just going to go ahead and use this time to show you some samples. If you have any questions, please do ask them. So these little bags here, and I'll take you over here so that we can do a close up. So you can see here that these were done using stitches that are in the sewing machine. So any of the stitches, so it was done as one big piece. So any of your sewing stitches that you have in your sewing machine, you can bring over into the embroidery design outside. So this was done using Shape Creator. So we created the shape in Shape Creator, and then we brought in, I don't know which stitch this is, but we brought in a stitch into the embroidery side, and we used the stitch. And then this design is one of the embroidery designs that can be found on mySewnet. So this is another bag, just a little bit bigger. And then we have that design on the back. And all this is just two pieces of wool back to back. And what's holding it together is the felting. So there's no stitching on this bag. It's the felting that's holding it together. Pretty cool. As for laundering, you can launder these things. The denim jacket, the little girl's denim jacket, that was had to be washed. Something happened to it while I was out on the road. and I had to bring it home and I washed it and I had to go through the washer twice. So, and it still looks great. So these things can be laundered. These, I haven't tried to launder them because they are only being held by the felting. I don't know how they will react. Not only that, but I don't know if these 2 bags have been pre-felted. And what I mean by pre-felted, you can buy wool fabric and put it in the washing machine with just a little bit of soap and the agitation of it, that will felt the fabric. So if you are planning on using wool, like I'm using for my pillows, if you're planning on washing those, you do want to pre-felt that wool so that when you do wash it, it's not going to shrink on you. Okay. Some more samples. So another little bag here. This one I know is a design in the mySewnet library. And we did it again here. And you can see inside of the bag, you have a nice little surprise. And let's get close to this. I don't know if you can see it, but you also have the shadow of it embroidered using just some thread that matches. So that's pretty cool as well. This one is sewn with, it looks like a decorative stitch. So this one is sewn together. Alrighty, one last sample. This is pretty cool too. So this is a little wrap. Okay, so these are some pretty good sized designs. Can you see them? Am I getting it there? Let me stand up and show it to you. All right, so you can see it. What is really cool about this is we did use felting sheets or felt by the yard, and it's also an applique on the other side. So this one is reversible. So when I cut that wool by the yard away, the wool felt by the yard away, I was very careful about it so that on the reverse side, we have a nice applique. So again, this did a twofold for this one project. So you have one side and then you have the other side. So it really doesn't matter how you throw this on your shoulders. Oh, it's way too hot for that today, but it doesn't matter which side you show. You have 2 different moods. Make sense? Alrighty. So I think I'm out of, yes, my table is bare. I'm out of samples to show you. Are there any questions? If not, that is okay. I do want to tell you, I was sitting here while I was talking to Amy before I pressed go on this. So I have here, these are called carding paddles. And these are used in, for making roving. So if you find a yarn, but you don't really want the yarn effect when you do the felting on the reverse side, you want it to look more like roving, you can get some of these carding paddles, and just, you're basically taking the yarn back to the form it was before it was yarn. So before it's yarn, it's roving, and then roving gets spun into yarn. So you can take that back, you can take it back so that it can be nice, it can be smoother. You can keep going at this. You can use this as a tool of letting out your aggressions because, if you're upset, you just go in there and you just start scraping the heck out of that. You can do it as much or as little as you want. So I was doing that. So it's softer. It doesn't have necessarily the look of yarn, but you can tell it's still yarn, but it just has a softer effect to it. And it will also cover some area a little bit further. This is 100% wool that I am using. Again, you have to think about it. You might find a pretty yarn at the big box stores and say, oh, that's a beautiful yarn. But if it's 100% acrylic, it is still not going to give you the same effect as, let's say, a wool blend. So if you find a wool blend, go for that over the acrylics if you can't afford the wool. I always try and tell people to buy the best materials that your pocketbook will allow you to for any one project. I know not everyone can have all of these different supplies and things, and not everyone has a yarn shop close to them. I'm lucky, I do, and they have some beautiful fibers there, but not everyone has that luxury. I remember in the beginning, in the early 200s, that knitting was like this huge thing, and Sarah Jessica Parker was shown knitting while she's on set and all that good stuff. But all of those stores have gone away, and I had at one point, I think I had 7 of them close to me. Now I only have 1, and I'm grateful that they're still there. So you know, you can find things there, but if you only have those big box stores that have that, they do carry some 100% wool yarn. So look for those first, and then go try and find a blend if that helps you. Yes, the wrap itself is a wool as well. So it was wool on wool. Can I stitch something on the machine? Sure. So you know what? I already have this set up for, I have this set up to continue with my flowers. So let's go ahead, because I want these anyway. So I will just let this stitch out. So you will see what I mean by how close knit it stitches. And I'm going to try and get in closer here. Is that, can you guys see that? I'm going to go ahead and press start. So this stitch out, with all 8 of them in there, it is going to take about an hour and 20 minutes at this point to stitch all of those out. Oh, it's blurry. Okay. Sorry guys, this isn't my favorite camera. I was hoping I wouldn't have to touch this one. How's that? Is that any better? See if I can get closer. That is not closer. How's that? Do you see how that's working? And the whole point of having the water soluble on top of it is so that the fibers, whatever fiber you choose, doesn't get caught up in the needle. And if it gets caught up in the needle, it can start pulling on the other water soluble that you have there. So what I am stitching out is a freestanding embroidery. When I did my crowns here, I did not use any kind of stabilizer whatsoever. I didn't use water soluble. As you can see, I did use painter's tape just to tape down the felt so that it doesn't start shifting. When I first started doing the maroon crown, I noticed that because I didn't have it taped down at first, it started pinching in. Now it's not a big deal if it started pinching in for what I'm going to do with it, because I'm going to make a pill out of it so no one's going to see that side. But what if I wanted to make it reversible? Then that pinching will show on the reverse side. So I just taped it down with painter's tape just to hold it in place and to keep it from getting caught from underneath the foot. So, you know, use your tools, use your discretion. I just kept going with the maroon crown because, you know, it's going to be on the inside. I'm just like, no, he's going to see it. And no one's going to know until Amy posts this out on Facebook, right? So, yeah, all kinds of fun stuff that you can do. Any other questions? All right, we're just about out of time. So I do want to tell you that our next FOF Live will be Thursday, July 11th with Meredith McCallahan. And by the way, when you see Meredith, you tell her, shame on you for telling me to just throw all my stuff on the floor and nobody will see it. I am not that way. I clean up my room. So you give her hell for that. And she will be showing some tips and tricks for using Stitch Creator. So how fun is that? So if there's nothing else, I'm going to let you go and you have a fun rest of the week. Bye.